This is another edition of 3D Printing News Unpeeled. And today we've got two huge news items. We don't often have news this big, and if we have news this big, then we have one big news item. This is a unique thing. We have two hugely impactful news items today, and so that's very, very exciting. So the first one concerns, 3D scanning of Ferrari. So we've always kind of assumed that you can 3D scan and reverse engineer and 3D print spare parts, especially if they're out of production spare parts, and especially if these spare parts cannot be made in other means. And a lot of people have additionally kind of looked at reverse engineering things. It's just a normal practice for a lot of companies, a lot of things, and just something that a lot of companies do. As normal business practice to reverse engineer parts to find out if your part fits another part or to compete with people or that kind of thing. And now, and on top of that, we've always looked at things like the aftermarket for cars and say, okay, if I can scan this car, I can maybe make old out of production Alfa Romeo parts that haven't been there before, or I could make new parts to add and augment to that old car. And everybody's kind of assumed that this is allowed, and it looks like it isn't. And that's just like, it really blew my mind. This is a ruling by the Alicante ETUM appellate court. This is the EU Trademark System Court. And they've done a really remarkable ruling that that really comes out of nowhere, really, and would have a big consequences for us. So first off, what happened? So there's a case of someone 3D scanning and 3D printing a part for a 488 GTB Ferrari. This is a recent Ferrari, the one you see in front of you. What they've done is they've 3D scanned this component, printed it, and then they put it on another Ferrari. I'm not entirely sure why you would do this, but that's what they did. The court ruled that this is both copyright infringement and trademark infringement at the same time. And they've ruled that there could be an injunction made to stop this kind of activity. So they've also ruled that because the bodywork was started on a different Ferrari, that was a derivative work. So these guys are paying kind of like hard and fast with copyright stuff and going into like some very engineering type areas with the stuff that we usually see play a role in some more digital kind of goods at the moment. Now, what they said as well, and this is even more mind-blowing, really, is the vehicle in question is one of the icons of motoring world. Not only for the technique behind the speed of the track or circuit, but in particular for the beauty of the characteristic shapes of the brand reflected in, inter alia, the vehicle used by the defendant as the object to be transformed. This, to me, it seems a little bit more animated than you would literally see on a lot of ruling kind of like, the language is a little bit more animated. It seems a little bit more, I don't know, kind of Ferrari fanboyish, I guess. And then and then it goes on a different part, is the level of creativity that lends itself completely to being viewed aesthetically, irrespective of its functional purpose. So what they're saying is because this car is so beautiful, we can see it as an aesthetic piece, like kind of an art piece as well. Now, the interesting thing that I'm thinking is like, okay, what does this mean for, I don't know, if I took like a kind of a battery component or like a thing like this, or something that isn't necessarily as beautiful as a Ferrari. Does that mean it wouldn't it wouldn't really see the amount of protection that it is because it's a less beautiful object? Is it copyright protection in the eye of the holder, let's say? And what if it's a less beautiful, less well-known car? I don't know. I think this is really strange. Now, this is huge implications for us. Does this now mean that I cannot in the EU reverse engineer anything? Right? Does it mean in the EU I cannot reverse engineer and put onto the market anything? Right? We don't know this at the moment. At least I don't. If you do, please tell me. Does it mean that in the EU we cannot reverse engineer and put on the market something that is 3D printed and 3D scanned, if that there's a company present in this in a very general way? And what if the item is not aesthetically pleasing? And will somebody go in to appeal this, or is this going to be the law of the land? Is this also going to mean that there's going to be a difference between us not being able to do this in the EU and Europe, but maybe this will be still allowed in the United States of America? So it's going to be a split And is America going to be able to reverse engineer things and 3D print spare parts? We'd like to thank, by the way, very much Lexology for bringing this news out. I think they were the first, at least that I saw, to have this. So that was an absolutely beautiful thing for them to be on top of this. So that is, a big news item, huge implications for us. I can't tell you anymore because this is a story that's developing, and I hope it doesn't slow us all down. I hope we get up with something sensible, or maybe there's a kind of fair use provision that means that you can do it in certain cases or something like that. Or maybe this is a new situation and we just have to adjust to it. This is monumental. The next news is also important. This has to do with LuxCreo. And LuxCreo is a US-based startup. They are developing a suite of software, 3D printers, materials, and even a 3D printing service for lots and lots of dental products. They developed initially, along with Graphy, a bunch of other people that were claiming to develop clear aligners. And LuxCreo has now developed, gotten FDA Class 2 510K clearance for a direct 3D printed dental aligner. So this is huge news, because this means that we can now, or a dentist or an orthodontist or a dental lab can buy the LuxCreo solution, and the company says in under 2 hours, but definitely in that day, 3D print clear aligners. So that means you could go in the morning to your dentist, come back and get the clear aligners. They could have more sets of clear aligners. But anyway, it means the little guy, if you will, can now compete with Invisalign and all these bigger players. Now, there's still some issues. Like one issue, for example, would be that you have to follow the right protocols and the right procedures to make sure this part is fully cured and safe. And if we're going to give this to a whole bunch of different people and we're going to put this in the mouth of people, then there could be risks of some of the materials in the resin or in the photo initiator. There could also be risk for dental staff as well. Now, of course, dental staff in your local orthodontist office, they deal with hygiene and stuff like that a lot more on a daily basis than you or I, and then they do these procedures and they deal with people's mouths and stuff, so that's good. But again, if you're doing a daily exposure to these resins and they end up getting in your skin, you can get a skin sensitization issue. So this is something to be wary of. But it's still a huge news. Now, does it also mean that there will be companies, using the LuxCreo solution to compete head-on with Invisalign? Probably. Does it mean that now these 1.5 million SLA VAT polymerization 3D prints made every single day for thermoforming inserts, that these are going to be now replaced by these clear aligners? We don't know. I mean, usually these companies, if they're underway, if they have a process dialed in, if it's just working for them, they like to stick to it, right? But you have to print this thing, you have to post-finish it a little bit, you have to cure it, then you put it in the thermoforming machine, and then it comes out. Now, again, if you consider that this thermoforming process might be safer because there is no leaching of the 3D printed material, you don't have these issues with the photo initiator, that kind of thing, that could be a reason to stick with the old way. But unquestionably, of course, if the material price is low enough, this is a far more cost-effective, less labor-intensive process. So this could be a huge implication for the market as a whole as well. Also, Graphy is working on a solution as well. Does this mean that we're going to have multiple clear aligner solutions competing with the big guys? Does this mean that your local orthodontist will be able to offer this service beyond their immediate customer group? And it doesn't mean that we're going to see a lot more startups use this technology as well. I don't know. I think it's a really exciting day news-wise. This is another 3D printing news on Peel. Thanks to 3dprint.com. My name is Joris Peels, and I hope you found this useful. Have a great day.